gosh, stalker, right? I got to get back to that. Okay, so these people were gang stalking me, and I had very legitimate and necessary. It was necessary for me to go to this house and see if I could get permission to reconnect with this individual. I didn't know the individual would be there, but whatever. Um, I don't even know if the original, if the order that was given to me was forged by the Mormons and the police up there in Idaho, or if it actually was signed by a judge who belonged to their cult, or who took a bribe, or what. I don't know. All I know is the whole thing was irrational and unnecessary, and it violated our rights. That's all I know. And it definitely violated our religious principles. Within that community, that was a really, what the heck? That was a sick thing to do. Anyway, so yeah, I did the morally right thing in a situation that very few people could possibly relate to, and I'm glad that you cannot relate to it. I don't want this to happen to people. I want this to be done away with. What's going on here. But I did care a lot for this person, very deeply. But now, this person is no longer trustworthy. Her willingness to basically agree to help the same people that were destroying me, like, finish the job, basically. I mean, kind of like throw me and my daughters under the bus in exchange for her own convenience. That's not a trustworthy person. So, it is a true statement, though, that if several people in my life, my relatives, this person, and a few other Mormons had simply come forward and told the truth years ago, this all could have been stopped and prevented, all of it. So there are reasons why kindness and honesty and equity are taught as religious principles, because that's what makes society functional, Anyway, and I was never allowed to have a fair trial, ever. I was just thrown in jail without being allowed to have a civilized conversation with a grown adult, so that we could about vital information. It was vital information. Okay, it had this needed to happen, and for both of our sakes, for both of our protection and well-being. But anyway, it wasn't allowed to happen. So no conversation, and no trial, no fair trial for me. I was left in jail for something close to 2.5 years. Not only was the Bill of Rights violated a whole bunch of times to get me in that situation, it was then violated again a whole bunch of times while I was in jail. I was, somebody hired a crooked lawyer to sit on my case, and I didn't even know. I never had no counsel or anything. Just sat in there for almost 2 years before I heard a peep about it from somebody else, from a third party. I wrote the guy later. He disappeared. He turns out to be a crooked lawyer that got in trouble for stuff, but he just dropped my case in the lap of the public defender's office. And that guy was also a crook. I mean, he made sure that I knew that I was not going to be allowed to have evidence or witnesses, and that he didn't give a damn really what happened to me or the other person. Our well-being didn't matter to him. This was a real sleazy guy. And anyway, the DA's office, they didn't care about exculpatory evidence. They didn't want the whole truth. They specifically wanted half the truth. That was very deliberate, and that was because this whole thing was for an agenda. I was not in there because I'm a danger to society or I was going to hurt anybody. That simply isn't not true. It's just false. And after all that time, serving the full sentence before I was even arraigned. I mean, give me a break. When I demanded to go to trial, they put me in double jeopardy. That was their solution. Oh, he wants to go to trial. Well, we don't want that to happen. So let's sit him in here for another 2.5 years. Right. So at that point, I was getting sick, and my daughters were displaying very, very, very clear signs of intense emotional distress, and it was affecting them in very bad ways. I asked them straight up, girls, what do you want me to do? Do you want me to just go ahead and just give them this effort guilty plea thing they keep throwing at me? You know, even though I knew that was part of their scam, but I was like, do you want me to do it? Because it means I'm going to have a felony. Do you care? And they're like, we don't care. We know that you're good. We know that you're not a felon. We know you never would have hurt anyone. So they just wanted me to get out of there. And so, you know, and I'm not blaming my decision on my daughters. I'm just explaining that, you know, my daughters know that I'm good. And we agreed together that us being together was more important than whether or not I had a record, you know. And that was our decision together, that we wanted to be together. So I gave them the plea in exchange for, you know, no more, you know, no parole, sentence complete, no more punishment, anything like that, right? I get to go, I get to get my stuff. You know, I told the judge that I need my thumb flash drives back that has my intellectual property on it for my career. I need my passport. It's the only valid ID that I have. He told me that he would expedite getting that back to me. And then I don't want to go into what happened after that, but I can tell you the DA's office and the police and the Mormons, man, they really would not let their scam go, and their disgusting agenda. And, you know, they fudged paperwork and policy once again to make sure that I could not get my ID or new ID, and that I could not get my intellectual property back, and that I could not travel to be with my daughters. And when I called my daughters and asked them to put together some witness statements for me, they were ordered by somebody. Elizabeth says it was her mom, but you know, I don't know what's going on with her, with my ex. I have no idea. Because like I said, I mean, that woman made an agreement with some bad people, you know, to do very deceptive things. So I don't know if it was, I don't know what's going on. I just know that my daughters were ordered not to communicate with me at all. And my other relatives refused to be honest. So I do hold them accountable for the child abuse of Emily and Elizabeth. I do. Anyway. So yeah, so I gave that so I could get out and be with my daughters, and yet I wasn't allowed to. I wasn't allowed to see them. I haven't seen them at all. I don't know if they're okay. And you know, but yeah. Anyway, so yeah, so I was never convicted in a fair trial by a jury of my peers, and you know, so I don't acknowledge it. I don't acknowledge the idea that I'm a stalker. It's false, and you don't need to be afraid of me. You know, I'm not gonna do anything to you. You know, these people violated the religion, the spiritual virtues and principles of the religious community that we grew up with. And so, you know, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has done so many terrible things to my family. You know, well, members and leaders, men and women of this institution, have done so many terrible. I'm not saying it's every person, and I'm not a hater, you know, but I eventually just got to the point where, you know, these people are not trustworthy anymore. So, you know, it is what it is. But, and my attempts to get answers, you know, from their leadership, you know, just were met with silence. I mean, they don't, and even though there's this criminal activity going on in that institution, I'm like, you need to investigate this, you know, silence. They don't want to be accountable. So anyway, so yeah, wow, it's a crazy situation, but no, I'm not a stalker, and you know, yeah, I'm just so tired. I'm tired. I don't want to talk about this anymore.